At first glance, from across the gallery floor, it appears to be a hallucination of the sacred. The canvas towers over the viewer, 8 feet of shimmering golden luminescence that commands the space with the authority of a Byzantine icon. It radiates a kind of hypnotic warmth, the yellow resin surface catching the museum lights and scattering them back in a haze of amber and gold. You are drawn in by this optical seduction, expecting the solemnity of a Cimabue or the decorative ecstasy of a Gustav Klimt. The figure of the Virgin Mary is outlined in broad, sweeping curves, robed in blue, her form simplified and monumental against the intricate, glittering background. It feels, for a fleeting moment, like an act of traditional worship, a modern altarpiece constructed to inspire awe. But as you step closer, the optical illusion fractures, revealing a reality that is far more tactile, unsettling, and intentionally provocative. The golden aura is not gold leaf, but a thick synthetic resin, trapping within it a constellation of glitter and map pins. And those floating winged shapes surrounding the Virgin, they are not the chubby, innocent cherubs of Renaissance frescoes. Upon inspection, they reveal themselves to be crude, collaged cutouts from pornographic magazines, specifically images of female buttocks. They swarm around the holy figure like flies, or perhaps like a distorted, secular choir, introducing a jarring note of the profane into the sacred visual language. Then, your eye is drawn to the focal point of the controversy, the element that defines the work's physical and conceptual gravity, the breast. It is not painted, it is a literal 3-dimensional lump of elephant dung, dried, varnished, and affixed directly to the canvas. It protrudes with an undeniable organic reality, disrupting the flat plane of the painting. It is raw, earthy, and shocking in its material bluntness. Yet, Ofili has treated this waste product with the same reverence as the paint. It is carefully lacquered, giving it a sheen that paradoxically makes it look almost like a precious stone or a geological artifact. The painting does not hang on the wall in a traditional manner. It rests on 2 additional balls of elephant dung, which serve as its pedestals. This is a crucial, often overlooked detail. The dung is not merely an aesthetic addition, it is the structural foundation of the entire work. The Holy Virgin Mary is literally grounded in the earth, supported by the organic cycle of digestion and excretion. This creates a powerful, vibrating tension between the high art materials of oil paint and resin and the low material of animal waste. It forces the viewer to reconcile the sublime with the scatological, the glittering heavens with the soiled earth. It is a visual paradox that refuses to resolve itself comfortably, demanding that we look, really look, at what we consider holy and what we consider abject. The beauty of the piece is undeniable, but it is a beauty that requires us to navigate through layers of cultural conditioning about filth and purity. Ofili presents us with a virgin who is not ethereal and distant, but one who is comprised of the very stuff of life, composed of the glittering debris of pop culture and the raw matter of the natural world. If the painting itself was a quiet collision of materials, its arrival in New York City was a detonated bomb. The year was 1999, and the Brooklyn Museum was set to host Sensation, an exhibition of works from the Saatchi collection by the young British artists. Even before the crates were fully unpacked, the cultural atmosphere was electric with anticipated outrage. But no one could have predicted the specific fury that would coalesce around chrisofili's contribution. It became the lightning rod for a culture war that would define the era's relationship between art, politics, and the First Amendment. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, seizing the moral high ground with the ferocity of a crusader, declared the work sick stuff. He didn't just critique the art, he launched an existential attack on the institution housing it. He threatened to terminate the museum's lease and freeze its city funding, effectively holding the livelihood of the museum hostage over a single canvas. The rhetoric was apocalyptic. The Catholic League joined the fray, condemning the painting as blasphemous, focusing entirely on the juxtaposition of the Holy Mother with animal excrement and pornography. They saw only insult, refusing to engage with the image as anything other than a hate crime against the faithful. For weeks, the museum was not a place of contemplation, but a battleground. Protesters lined the steps of the Beaux Arts building, waving placards and chanting, while counter-protesters defended free expression. The air was thick with the vitriol of a city divided. The painting itself had to be protected behind plexiglass, guarded like a head of state. This precaution proved necessary when Dennis Heiner, a 72-year-old pensioner, managed to slip past guards and smear white paint over the canvas, an act of iconoclasm that mirrored the very intolerance the exhibition sought to question. This period stripped the painting of its nuance. In the court of public opinion and the tabloids, the Holy Virgin Mary ceased to be an artwork with texture, history, and symbolism. It was flattened into a punchline and a political talking point, the Dung Madonna. The discourse completely ignored the visual reality of the piece, the shimmering beauty, the complex layering, the intricate resin work, in favor of a hysterical focus on its materials. It was a litmus test for American artistic freedom. The legal battle that ensued, Brooklyn Institute of Arts and Sciences versus City of New York, resulted in a federal court ruling that reinstated the museum's funding and affirmed that the government could not censor art simply because it found it offensive. Yet, amidst the legal briefs and the shouting matches on cable news, the painting stood silent behind its protective shield. It had exposed the fragility of New York's cosmopolitan self-image. The city that prided itself on being the center of the modern art world was suddenly grappling with the same questions of censorship and morality that had plagued societies for centuries. The controversy proved that art still had the power to be dangerous, to provoke the state, and to incite visceral, physical reactions. The Sensation exhibition didn't just show art, it revealed the raw, exposed nerves of a society grappling with changing definitions of the sacred, dragging the private experience of viewing art into the harsh, fluorescent glare of the political arena. When the shouting died down and the lawyers went home, the painting remained. Stripped of the headlines, we are left to confront the work on its own philosophical terms, which are far more profound than the scandal suggested. Chrisofili, the man behind the storm, was not a secular provocateur looking to mock the church. He was a practicing Catholic, an altar boy in his youth, and a man deeply engaged with his heritage. To understand the Holy Virgin Mary, we must look past the Western recoil at excrement and understand the African symbolism that Ofili was channeling. In Zimbabwe, where Ofili had studied on a scholarship in the early 90s, elephant dung is not merely waste. It is a symbol of fertility, regeneration, and the nurturing power of the earth. By affixing it to the Virgin Mary, Ofili was not defiling her, he was translating her. He was creating, in his own words, a hip-hop version of the old masters, sampling the iconography of art history and remixing it with the beats of Black culture and African identity. The dung breast represents a nurturing earth mother, a deity who is physically connected to the land and the cycle of life, rather than a sanitized, disembodied spirit floating in the clouds. This is a Black Madonna for a contemporary world. The cutouts of buttocks, often cited as proof of blasphemy, serve a similar function of grounding. They surround the Virgin with the reality of the female body, as it is commodified in pop culture, contrasting the sacred image of womanhood with the profane reality of how Black women's bodies are often viewed. Ofili forces these two worlds to coexist, suggesting that holiness can exist amidst the noise and grit of the streets. The painting is an act of reclamation. It asserts that the divine does not belong solely to the pristine white marble cathedrals of Europe, but can be found in the materials of the African landscape and the complex, often contradictory visuals of urban life. The vindication of the work has been absolute. In 2015, the painting sold at Christie's for $4.6 million, and later it was gifted to the Museum of Modern Art. it now hangs in the canon of art history, not as a mistake or a prank, but as a masterpiece. Its journey from a sick object of scorn to a celebrated treasure mirrors the journey of many avant-garde works that challenged the status quo. It teaches us that the sacred is not a fixed point, but a fluid concept that changes with the viewer's perspective. Ofili's Madonna challenges us to find beauty in the unexpected, to see the holy in the humble, and to recognize that true spirituality is often found not in the separation from the world, but in the deep, messy, and beautiful immersion within it. The dung does not stain the Virgin, it gives her life.